Thank you so much for joining us on the Dwelling Show. I'm your host, Ola Dantes. I've got the amazing Kim Kastokic with us today. Hey, Kim, how you doing?
Hi, doing well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you on. I love your story, so I definitely cannot wait to jump in. But I'm sure you can do a way better job than I can in terms of telling our listeners a little bit more about who you are, kind of what you've been doing and kind of what brought you to where you are today.
Sure, absolutely. So I became a real estate investor at the age of 25, and I joke around with myself that I became an investor as an accidental landlord. So if everybody remembers, or a lot of your listeners probably remember the crash of 2008. And before that time, 2 years prior was 2006, and everybody was talking about now's the time to buy. It's the best investment that you can do, and just really making it a huge hype. And really, I mean, mortgage companies were giving out loans to people. I mean, I was only 25 years old and I was able to get a loan pretty easily. And I bought my first house thinking that was the responsible thing to do. And then the market crashed, which wouldn't have been a big deal, but I was transferred to another city. I was living in Augusta, Georgia at the time, and my job transferred me over to Atlanta. So I obviously wanted to take advantage of that opportunity, but at the time with the market crash, my house was about $20,000 underwater. And being at that young age, I mean, not a lot of young 20 somethings have 20 grand to take to the closing table just to get out of a house. So I just really looked at that as a challenge to overcome. I was thinking of creative ways to be able to keep the house, but still be able to move. And so I decided to rent it out. And that's really what started my journey. I mean, that was about 15 years ago. And since then, I've acquired 13 units and have become financially independent from those units. And all while keeping a W 2 job and being able to manage these properties as a landlord, long distance, working a W 2, and building towards financial freedom. So it's just been a really amazing journey. Definitely have come across a little bit of everything. But what's been really neat and challenging is just being able to be resourceful and finding solutions to problems, and just knowing every single one that pops up that there's a way to solve it and moving forward. So it's been a very rewarding experience.
I bet. I mean, I love your story. I was just like constantly taking notes. I mean, you said a lot of amazing things.
Thank
I mean,
you.
yeah, honestly, like, one of the first questions I get a lot from some of our investors or potential investors is, hey, Ola, have you been through a recession? And no, I mean, I was alive, but I was in university studying to get my master's degree. So like, you've actually been through your own property during the recession. So you know exactly what to do, what you did, which was renting the apartment, the house you had. So I really love that. But I want to go back a little bit more actually. So before the recession, like you said, loans were being given to pretty much anyone. You were 25, you bought this property. But why did you like? I mean, why weren't you like other 25-year-olds? Kind of, I don't know what 25-year-olds do, like party or not thinking about investments, obviously, right? What
Right.
was that?
Right.
What made you buy that first property? I was just kind of trying to get into your mind at that time.
Yeah, I mean, just at that time, the conversation and the narrative was it's the responsible thing to do to buy a house. I mean, the narrative is drastically changed now that we're in 2020, but at the time it was really the responsible thing to do. So I think, that's one side. And then the other side is that, my favorite game growing up was Monopoly, and I'm not even joking. So I think subconsciously I saw this really cool property and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a shot, even though it was never in my purview that I would ever be a real estate investor. But there was always something about it that was really interesting. And then the third thing is I remember thinking that it would be really interesting or really cool to rent out the house for the Masters tournament. So a lot of people that live in Augusta, they will rent out their homes for a pretty good amount during Masters Week. So I always thought that that was intriguing. And that was kind of my, oh, if it doesn't work out, I can always rent it out for the masters, but just never thinking that I would actually become a landlord and then acquire more units down the road.
Right. Well, so you obviously you were really paying attention to the particular market you were investing in, and that's also a key piece to really being successful as a registered entrepreneur, because you know what's in your local market. Yeah, I really like that. So you now own 13 units. You're, long distance managing your properties. You have a W-2 job. What is wrong with you? I mean, everyone is saying like, everybody's saying like, don't do this. It's impossible. You can never do it. How are
Yeah.
you doing this? Like, you need to like tell me, like teach me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what it is, with I've talked to a lot of people wanting to get into real estate investing. And I honestly think it seems more daunting than it actually is. I think that we have so much education and so many resources out there, and it's very easy to get stuck in just the research and the analysis, that analysis or paralysis by analysis or whatever. And I think what it really is it's just jumping in and figuring it out as you go. And I know that's not a very popular strategy, but I live about 2.5 hours away from my rental properties. And I'm not going and checking up on my rentals every single week or even every single month. I mean, I probably go out there once a quarter and less if I don't have anything huge going on. And really what I've done over the years is I've had a lot of trial and error, but I've finally gotten a team in place where I have a really good handyman, a really good plumber, a really good HVAC. And the thing is, I think it's really important to segment all the trades out with different people. I made some really big mistakes trying to use one person for everything. It was a disaster. And it just took me a while to finally find a good person for each. And then now I'm even at the point that I feel like I need to build a deeper bench. So if my number one guy in HVAC isn't available, I need to have an equally strong number 2 and number 3 guy. And so that's really what I'm developing right now.
So you actually talked about two things, right? You talked about kind of like the soft mindset piece of like, it might be daunting, but try to, come out of that analysis paralysis phase, right? Just kind of just do it. So that's kind of like the mindset piece, kind of what I'm thinking. And then kind of like a tactical real life, this is what you have to do, get a, HVAC guy, plumber, handyman, segment them out based on the trade. I love that. But I want to separate those a little bit, right? So first and foremost, I mean, you got this property, you got punched in the stomach by the recession. You could have just said, hey, I'm not going to do this real estate thing, but clearly you didn't do that because you went on to own more and more units afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, you're laughing as well, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do that. They just go, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, right? So first and foremost, how did you scale up? I definitely want to come back to, how you're tactically managing this assets long distance, but how did you kind of go from that one tough property that could have knocked you out of the game to scaling, right? And you could break it down into mindset and then what you did tactically as well.
Yeah, so, I have to be honest, I didn't start scaling my business until about 2015. And I acquired this property, back in 2006. So that really tells people that it wasn't something that I just jumped right into. I think what it was is, that first property, and I still own it today, it really helped me build my confidence. I faced everything with that rental property. I had to figure out how to place my own tenants. I had to learn a good process for screening. I had a sewer backup that happened in the house, which when you're not a real estate investor, I didn't look at myself as a real estate investor at the time. I just was trying to keep my head above water. And then all of a sudden my tenants call me and, say, hey, this is going on. That can be really daunting and really intimidating. But each time something came up, I was able to make the right phone calls, get it done, get a couple quotes, not necessarily go with the highest price, but get a set of 3 quotes. And every single time it built my confidence. So coming back to scaling the business, at around 2015, I decided, hey, I've done this. And of course, the recession was over at the time. So I missed out on all of those great opportunities and those great deals, or at least I thought. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I missed out on all the good properties. Well, just as a side note, everybody, there's still amazing deals. So you just have to know where to look. But to keep going, I decided that I wanted to get a duplex and really start focusing on duplexes and triplexes, because I figured that would help me scale a lot faster. And basically, I acquired the rest of my units between 2015 and now, and I'm still in acquisition mode. So I'll probably be acquiring until about 20 to 30 units, and then I'll focus on doing other things after that.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. Okay. So I really like what you said, like, hey, it wasn't kind of like I got this really bad experience or quote unquote bad experience, however you look at it, with the recession, and then I just kept on buying. There was this gap, I really like that because, everybody just kind of thinks like this can be easy, right? Like you get knocked down and you get back up. Sometimes you might just give yourself a little bit of time to kind of get yourself together and kind of jump back in the game. So I appreciate you mentioning that. So now you're at 13 units, and you're managing this asset, as you said, long distance. Can I just say, what is the one best tool that you found to really help you do this, right? Like a software or just something that's really helped you do this. Like if there's somebody listening to this and maybe they have maybe a few units that is long distance, but they're just kind of struggling. What do you think that one tool is, or one process, should I say?
Well, I'm going to break it down in a couple different tools, if you don't mind. So finding contractors, hands down, Thumbtack is a really good resource. I've found a lot of really good contractors on thumbtack.com, and they'll support you as well. I mean, they've got a really good customer service aspect to it as well. And I've found very good trades there. In terms of screening tenants, you have to have a really good process, especially being long distance. You have to be able to do a background check. You have to do a credit check. You have to be able to verify income, all of that. And it doesn't have to be so daunting. There's really good software programs. I use TransUnion, SmartMove as one of the options for that. And then listing properties, you don't necessarily need a real estate agent to do that. You can just go on to Zillow. They have a really good rental manager software that's free. And then there's this new website. I mean, at least it's new to me. I started using it this year. It's called Zumper.com. And I have gotten some tremendous leads from that tiny little website. I mean, to me, it was tiny. I'd never heard of it before. And I started listing, and I'm actually getting better results from Zumper.com than I'm getting from Zillow rental manager. So those are the three tools that I use that I'm basically able to scale my business and do a lot of what I need to do day to day just from my computer.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like a lot of tools that we use as well. And you would not believe it. The very first time I used Facebook Marketplace for one of our rentals as well. Yeah. And like, I'm so nosy as well. So I want to look at the person's profile, like, if they got drunk last week, Friday or whatever. So I would go. So we use that as well. And, it's just amazing how, the leads that we've gotten from that. So yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for sharing that. Definitely want to know what's next. Obviously, I see your posts on Bigger Pockets all the time. I read on all your comments and stuff. So what is next for you? You've building, this business pretty well. Are you looking to go into like, bigger deals, commercial, what are your thoughts in terms of the future for you and your business?
Yeah, so I decided it would be really fun to take on 2 renovation properties and start a new job all in the same month. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing long distance renovating, believe it or not, on a triplex and then on a single family. We have the single family deal under contract right now, and the triplex is still under renovation, but it's turning out beautifully. And so I'm having a lot of fun with the renovation side, and I'll decide if I want to keep the triplex or end up selling it. But the really cool thing is, both of these deals I went and I found off market, and I'm really starting to develop my chops and my skills in acquiring more of the off market deals. So the next steps are really going to be renovations, flipping, and then deciding if I want to keep them or move on to the next.
So I can hear one of our audiences like screaming, like, how do you find off market? You got to, all of you have to ask that questions, and are you flipping long distance? So can you just break that down for us, and then we can go into the quick rounds?
Yeah. Well, it can be done. Now, is it easy? There's challenges. And have I felt like I want to pull my hair out at certain points? Absolutely. But again, it all boils down to really aligning and having a good team. And I'm telling you, once you start doing the renovations, the cream of the crop really stands out really fast. And, you know, unfortunately, there were a couple contractors that I really thought had my back, and they didn't, and that showed up. So, you know, it gave me the opportunity to find even better talent and start working with some other people. And so it's just really, you have to have good relationships on the ground level. And that's been most important. And then I can hear even myself, if I'm listening to this podcast, think to myself, if this was 5 years ago, think, oh yeah, but you've got to have your feet on the ground to develop these relationships. And honestly, my HVAC guy, he's awesome. And he is so responsive. We've never met in person, and we laugh about that. We've never met in person, but you just got to find the people that have integrity, pay them fast, give them an honest wage. Because remember, if you're long distance, you're not going to be able to get necessarily the lowest rate. You're going to have to bypass convenience a little bit with good quality work. Like you're paying for some convenience and some good quality work. So you've got to keep that in mind. But again, you're buying back your time. So I would say it's really having good people on the ground working for you.
And the off-market stuff, how did you guys find that?
So that was I took a pre-foreclosure class, and the gal that does the pre-foreclosure class, she offers free pre-foreclosure leads to the people that take her class. So basically what I did, and it wasn't even fancy, I got an Excel spreadsheet of pre-foreclosure leads, and I had no idea what to do with it. I had no idea how to write a letter or a postcard, and you guys will laugh, but this worked. I went online, I Googled a yellow letter and found some really decent verbiage. And what I did is I went onto the computer and I typed it out, and I printed out 85 of these letters using mail merge and just sent it out. I mean, it isn't rocket science, everybody.
Wow. Yeah. Just do it, basically.
It's just doing it, and it doesn't even have to be perfect, and it doesn't even have to be pretty. You know, I mean, I just I look at some of my letters that the first round, I got 4 or 5 calls, and we ended up landing this deal. And I say I actually partnered up with the lady that does this pre-foreclosure class, because I didn't know what I was doing. She's got more experience. So we put both our money in, and now we're splitting the deal 50-50. But now I have a ton of experience, and I know that I can go and do the next one by myself.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kim. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, just for anyone listening thinking there are no deals out there or I can't get off market, I mean, that's a perfect way. I really appreciate that. We're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. These are going to be quick questions, quick answer. You ready, Ma?
Sure. Yeah.
First question, what makes Kim unique? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next guy or from the next girl?
Well, I would have to say that I'm doing this, being a real estate investor with a full-time job. And then I also am the mom to a 6-year-old. So it's just, there's a lot of things going on, but it's all just so rewarding.
Can relate. I have a 2-year-old and another one coming here. I can totally relate.
Congratulations. They're so much fun,
They are.
A lot of work.
Yes, of course. Next question. What was the last book that you read, and what was the one thing that you picked up from that book?
So I really love what I'm doing, but I read this really good book called Don't Keep Your Day Job. And it's because I follow the podcast. It's by Kathy Heller, Don't Keep Your Day Job. And she has so many cool guests that talk about entrepreneurship, talk about all sorts of creative endeavors. And I just love hearing people's stories. And the biggest thing that she always says is she says, don't be afraid to put out the messy version. And I think we all have to remember that. And I know I have to remember that, like, take the letters example. It wasn't necessarily the prettiest postcard. It was just literally one white sheet of paper printed on with my information. And I got calls from that. So I think what people need to remember is it doesn't have to be perfect to get out there and try. You'll figure it out on the way. You're not going to lose a lot of money. You just got to start small and just keep moving.
I love it. I love it. That is so amazing. I have to check that one out. Yeah, fascinating book. It must be. Last question. You're growing your business. You've got your W-2. You've got the family. What do you do for fun?
Yeah. I guess real estate isn't the right answer here. Like, I have to think of something else.
We'll take it.
I love real estate, and you could you can even talk to my family. They're like, okay, stop for a minute. But no, we love going out to dinners and going on hikes and doing all of that fun stuff as well. But if you really want to know what gets me jazzed up is talking about real estate, talking about pre-foreclosures, talking to other real estate investors, and not trying to sound cheesy. That's honestly what my passion is. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're not alone. I mean, look at us. It's like what, almost 7. Well, for you, it's past 7 p.m. Eastern time. For me in Texas, it's 6. Yeah. So, and I'm still here in the office. So yeah, clearly, if there's somebody listening, maybe they're in the Georgia market or anywhere else in the country, and they're like, I really like this Kim person. I want to get connected with Kim, know more, learn more. Maybe she can coach me. Where's the best place people can reach out, get to know you more?
Yeah. So they can find me at thew2landlord.com. And people can also email me at thew2landlord@gmail.com.
Awesome, Kim. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. No, it's been fun. I learned so much from you as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us here.
Absolutely. Thank you.